So talking about the vulva or the C. elegans vulva development. First, we learn about that what is the C. elegans. Then we learn about what is the vulva. Then we learn about the development and everything, right? So C. elegans is what? It's a multicellular nematode. Okay, it is known as a roundworm and it is regarded as a model organism. That in a way, like the in the same line, when you have the Drosophila getting used as a model organism in developmental biology, C. elegans is also considered as one of an important model organism. And also it has two different sexes in the same organism. Like if you take up a C. elegans, it will be having the male part as well and the female part as well. There are two types of it. First case is hermaphrodite, that means having the male and the female part together, and the second one is having only the male part. Okay, either you have a hermaphrodite present in the nature or we have the female present in the or a male present in the nature. Hermaphrodite is the organism which has both the characteristics or which showcases the reproductive phases of both the male and the female. Right now there are two ways it can reproduce: either with the help of self fertilization, because it is having the male and female part, or with the help of cross fertilization. Right, so it can reproduce with self fertilization as well and cross fertilization as well. And when we talk about the generation time of it, that means the time it takes to get developed and form a new one, it is your 3 days, right? So C. elegans, it's a multicellular nematode. It has a very short generation time, hence it can be regarded as a model organism. There are two different sexes present, either a hermaphrodite or a male. It can reproduce via two formats, either self fertilization or the cross fertilization. Right now, when we talk about the various characteristic features of the same, and also it is having short lifespan, well characterized genome is there. One very important feature is that the C. elegans body is, or the C. elegans have a transparent body. Okay, it is particularly valuable for its simple anatomy. That is, it has a very simple body plan. Right now, more when we talk about its morphology, so it's a small non-parasitic roundworm which is having typically about 1 mm in length. It has a cylindrical transparent body with a distinctive head and tail. It is simple and it is having a very simplified body plan, which makes it a very ideal organism for studying the developmental processes. Then reproduction. So it reproduces primarily through self fertilization, but it can also reproduce through cross fertilization. So that's why it's an ideal organism. It is showcasing different and very distinctive properties which are not usually there in the organisms. Then it has a very short generation time, 3 to 4 days only. Then transparency. So the transparency of C. elegans allows for easy visualization for its internal structures, including individual cells and organelles under a microscope. These features are helpful for studying the developmental and cellular processes. The genome is also very easy, that the genome is also sequenced, so it's easily comparable and easily studyable. Then developmental biology. So in this we have the C. elegans getting formed. So that's also a very unique property which we'll be discussing. It is highly stereotyped development from a fertilized egg to an adult worm, which is having, like it in the C. elegans, there is one very different and a very unique feature that it has a very specific number of cells, specific number of neurons and everything. Like when we'll discuss the vulva development, there are only 6 cells which are going to participate in it. Out of those 6 cells, only the sixth one is going to participate in the primary one. Like we'll be discussing all those things. So it has a very distinctive and a very uh, properly structured body plan, right? So it is having 959 somatic cells, 302 neurons, so very structured. Aging research, so genetic research can be done in the C. elegans for the aging functionalities as well because of their lifespan regulation. They have only 3 to 4 days of the developmental time followed by their lifespan. So that can also be studied over here. Then RNA interference, so they can help out in a number of genomic studies, in the drug screening, and in evolutionary processes as well. So various different characteristic features are there for all of them. Remember about this and go through this particular thing. Then we'll start with the main vulva development features, like how does the vulva development occur and everything. Quickly go through this everyone, then we'll proceed forward. Done everyone. Bhageshri, is it done now? Should I proceed? Right, this is about the C. elegans, the main part of it. Now we have the vulva development. Understand this, it's very simple, very simple. Look into this particular pathway. Yeah, look over here. This is my own notes. Is the like image visible to everyone? Is there any problem in the visibility? Right, see over here. This is your C. elegans. Right, these are your gonads. Under the gonads, we have the presence of anchor cells, that is AC. And below the anchor cells on the opposite side, like we have over here. See, this is anchor cells and these are 6 cells. So we have enlarged this version and kept it over here. These are anchor cells and these are the various vulval precursor cells. 6 vulval precursor cells are there. That is VPCs. What is the name of each of these? So we define them as P3P up till P8P. So P3P, 4P, 5, 6, 7 and 8. 6 of the vulval precursor cells are there. Only 6 of them participate in the same, right? Now what happens? We have learned about in developmental biology that the entire functionality works upon the gradient of morphogens, right? Depending upon the concentration of the entities, depending upon the concentration of the signals that we have, you will see a similar type of characteristic feature to be showcased afterwards, right? So the vulval precursor cell are going to induce a signal which is called as Lin3. So Lin3 is the inductive signal by your anchor cells. All of the vulval precursor cell are equivalent, that is, all of them have the capacity to convert into the primary precursor cell or the secondary one and form the vulva. So all of them will be having the receptor for Lin3. This receptor is given the name of LET23. Anchor cells release the inductive signal called as Lin3. All the vulval precursor cells have the presence of the receptor LET23 for receiving the Lin3, for receiving this inductive signal. Now, what happens? The P6P receives the highest concentration of your Lin3 signal. As a result of receiving the highest concentration, it will be converted into your primary vulval precursor cell. That is the first primary precursor cell, that is this is VPC. So primary precursor cell will be formed with the help of P6P. Now, because the vulval precursor cell, primary one, have already been created, the primary vulval precursor cells initiate, that is P6V, it will start a process called as lateral inhibition. What do you mean by lateral inhibition? So lateral inhibition is that when you have the P6P after getting converted into the primary vulval precursor cell, it induces or it releases the signal which is called as Lin12, so that the nearby precursor cells that are there, the nearby P5P, P7P which are there, for them to inhibit them for converting into the primary one. That's why 5 and 7 converts into the secondary vulval precursor cell. Repeating it again, anchor cells releases some signals, inductive signals called as Lin3. Lin3 is received or it is perceived by the receptor which is present on all the vulval precursor cell called as LET23. Because P6P is present in the most nearest vicinity of the uh, release, it receives the highest concentration. And in developmental biology, the entire process works upon the morphogen gradient. So, highest concentration leads to the conversion of P6P into your primary vulval precursor cell. Now, your primary vulval precursor cell initiates, or P6P initiates, a mechanism of lateral inhibition so that the nearby vulval precursor cells that are there, that is P5, P and 7P, they are inhibited to convert into the to convert into the primary ones. So that's why P5P and P7P are converted into the secondary valval precursor cells, right? So 7 cells and 8 cells. Primary one will be forming 8 cells. Secondary valval precursor cells via P5P and P7P are going to form 7 cells each, right? So remember about this. In addition, you have P3P, P4P and 8P, which all of them had equivalent property. All of them could have converted into that, but because of the concentration reaching to 5, 3, 4 and 8 is very low, you will have 4, 5, 3, 4 and 8 getting converted into the hypodermal cells. So that is which is known as your tertiary VPCs. Okay, so primary VPC via P6P, secondary via P5P and 7P, and 3, 4, and 8 give rise to the tertiary one, which are going to form the hypodermal cells. Right? Remember about this particular thing, that how does it occur. Now, 8 cells from the primary, 7 and 7 from the secondary. In total, 22 cells are there, which are going to form up your vulva. In total, 22 cells are there, which are going to form up your entire vulva in the C. elegans, right? This is the main framework of how does the vulva development occurs in C. elegans. Did you understand this particular thing, everyone? It starts with the anchor cells releasing inductive signal, inductive signal perceived by the receptors then will, because of the perceiving, you have the primary and the secondary valval precursor cells getting formed, followed by these primary and secondary valval precursor cells converting into a specific number of cells and forming up the entire vulva. Remember, all the valval precursor cells have equivalence. All of them can get converted into the primary and the secondary one. The change or the differences occurs based upon the amount of the morphogen acquired by them, right? Or based upon the amount of your VPCs taken up by them, right? So remember about this particular thing. It is not produced, it is induced by P6P. Okay, they are induced by P6P. See over here, all VPCs have equal potential to form the vulva. 5, 6, and 7 will form the vulva. 3, 4, and 8 will form the hypodermis. 5 and 7 forming secondary, and first one is forming up the primary one. Remember this. Now, after this, go through, yeah, see over here, exact whatever I have explained is written down here, the entire overview. So initial cell specification, so it develops in the L1 stage, where 3 cells known as the vulval precursor cells are selected, 5, 6, and 7. At this stage, they are undifferentiated and have potential to adopt different cell fates. Then Lin3 or EGF signaling. This Lin3 getting released by the anchor cells and everything. This is nothing but your EGF signaling pathway, right? So EGF signaling pathway plays a central role over here. Anchor cells AC secretes EGF-like ligand, that is your epidermal growth factor-like ligand known as Lin3, which activates the receptor tyrosine kinase, that is LED23 on the VPCs, that is your receptor that we have. Then cell fate I've explained, induction, and then cell fusion. So cell fate is the primary one will be with the help of P6P, 5 and 7, which receives the intermediate and lower level of signaling, respectively, to adopt the secondary vulval cell fate, induction of the tertiary vulval cells. So, primary vulval cells, P6P secretes delta like ligand LAG2, which activates the Notch receptor. Now, see over here, it activates LAG2, which is activating a receptor, that is Lin12. So, in the diagram you had a basic understanding. Over here you have the detailed part of all these things. That's why theory and diagram need to be done together. I'm explaining this, wait for it. Lin12 is the Notch receptor, and lag, it's a type of a delta like ligand, right? So this signaling leads to the adoption of the tertiary vulval fate by the secondary precursors. Then different cell fusion and differentiation occurs. First, second, and third, that is primary, secondary, and tertiary, all of them fuse together to form the vulval tube. These cells differentiate into various structures that make up the vulva, including the vulval muscles and vulval cuticle. Then spicules and hook formation. So in the male tail, the vulva contributes to the formation of spicules and the hook structure that are important for mating. So remember about this particular thing as well, that how is it actually getting done. So the question is that you have in column 1 the various mutation cases, and in the column B the information related. So first one is loss of function of Lin3, then you have loss of function of Lin-B and gain of function of LED23, reduced function of Lin3 and overexpression of Lin3. So when the loss of Lin3 will be there, what will happen? Yes, majority of you have marked the answer as option number A. Some of you have marked the answer as option number B, and one of you marked the answer as option number 3. Very good. First is the answer. If Lin3 gets lost, all of them will be adopt the tertiary phase because there won't be any inductive signal, and all of them will be having the formation or will be showcasing the tertiary fate. Then loss of function of Lin-B and gain of function of LED23. Lin-B getting lost and LED23 getting increased. So you'll be having a multivulva getting formed, right? Reduced function of Lin3. When the reduced function of Lin3 will be there, what will you see? First one will adopt the primary fate, and all the other ones will be adopting the tertiary fate, because there won't be enough content, there won't be enough Lin3 for the other tertiary, other VPCs to convert into the secondary one. So first one P6P will be converting into the primary, and all the other one will be having the tertiary one. Very simple, logical. Then overexpression of Lin3, there are chances 1, 4, 5, and 6, all of them adopting the primary fate only, right? So remember about all of this, that what or how does the loss occur, and what the final functionality will be, right? In the examination, you can easily get questions like this. In 2017, this was asked. Is the question clear to all? Did you understand the question, everyone? Yes. You'll get such type of questions only in the main examination. So make sure that you remember all of them. Right. See, one more question is there. Try this question now. This is 2018. Try it out. Right? Following statements are made regarding the vulva development in the C. elegans, right? And you need to find out which of the option represents the combination of correct statements. First one, six vulval precursor cells are influenced by the anchor cells to form up a equivalence group. This one is the correct statement, right? Then loss of lin12 mutants, both cells become uterine, whereas gain of function, both cells become anchor, maybe. Then when if the anchor cell is destroyed in the early development, all six divide once and contribute towards the formation of hypodermal cells. Then the anchor cell or the ventral uterine precursor decision is due to the Notch delta mediated mechanism of restricting the adjacent cell fates. Then paracrine factor secreted by the anchor cells directly activates the Notch delta pathway. So A to E, five statements are given to you, and you had to find out the correct answer. What should be the correct answer over here? We have to find out the combination of correct statements. We are sure about the first statement. I can eliminate the third and the fourth one. Second is saying that loss of function will lead to the conversion of cell into the uterine and gain of function both into anchor. This one is a wrong statement. It's not that way. So B is wrong. With just two options and with just two informations, I can reach to my correct answer with elimination and everything. A is the correct answer for this question.